Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune. I am Mark Grote of Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. Dan is at Haugh. I am at home because I was in studio today hosting a show for 4 hours. Dan, how are you, Mr. Lake Forest?
Yeah, I'm good. And for our video audience, you can see I brought a friend with me today. It's our old friend, the Lombardi Trophy. Apparently in January of 1986, there was a 46-10 victory, my friend, over the New England Patriots.
Certain victory, which was clinched by a Reggie Phillips pick six.
I remember that well. Reggie Phillips, he was sprinting down the right sideline, and then he took it in the end zone. There was a safety in that game.
Little thing called Super Bowl XX. So this is, as you know, a very authentic podcast. Dan is not only at Haugh,
I got the trophy.
He's from the trophy. That's the real ass trophy. That's it. So if you're listening to the audio version of this one, if you want to see the trophy and see it glowing behind Dan Wiederer, this is your opportunity to do that. Bears practiced again, and we found out today the big news is that the Bears will play the starters on Sunday against the Buffalo Bills, even though they will perform a joint practice with the Bills on Friday, which was sort of the excuse the previous week why Ben Johnson did not play the starters in the game this past Sunday, because they went at it in the joint practice against Miami. Dan, I'm anxious to hear your thoughts. I've made it very clear that this was a slam dunk for me. You absolutely have to. I don't care about the joint practice. If you want to move fast, like you've talked about, if you want reps, if you want this quarterback to be ready by game one against the Minnesota Vikings on damn Monday Night Football, you need to see these starters in effect, and I wouldn't mind seeing them for a full half.
Yeah, we'll see what they decide to do. Ben has alluded multiple times now of having plans and visions when training camp started and having to adjust those plans. He hasn't given us specifics on what the originals were and how they've been amended, but we do know that on Sunday night against the Bills that they will play. Ben did say today, which is, I'm losing track of all days, is Wednesday, that it is a night game against the Bills. And so obviously the opener being a night game as well, it will help the Bears get into a little bit of a rhythm. They're going to obviously stay at the team hotel the night before. And so all these players will have a chance to kind of get themselves in a routine that may help them out on September 8th when they go to play the Vikings in a game that matters much more. TBD was the head coach's description of how long Caleb Williams and the starters would go. And so I think there's probably a rep count that they have in mind, but also a success count that they have in mind as well. And so like the quicker you show that you're able to handle the things that need handling and able to succeed in ways that are encouraging, the quicker you may find your way to the sideline. And so it'll be good. It'll be very, very good to be in that building on Sunday night and get our eyes on Caleb on that stage and the offense on that stage and see if they can put a foot forward and start moving in the right direction.
Amen. I mean, I feel like they just need that. They need that confidence, the thing that you and I have been calling for, a month into the offseason, and that is consistency, discernible improvement, successive good back-to-back plays, back-to-back good days. I'll take a strong quarter on Sunday night, Dan. I mean, it's just somewhere along the line that has to transpire. And you know what? While we're at it, be really nice to see Caleb get off to a fast start in that game too, something that we know was a bugaboo last year.
The other part of this conversation and the other lens that the Bears coaching staff is going to have on this is everything that they've been doing over the last 4 weeks. It's this operational stuff. There's such a heavy emphasis and focus right now with Caleb Williams in particular of everything that happens from the moment the play call comes in to the moment you take the snap. And they just have been hammering this over and over again. We talked to the offensive assistant coaches out here today, Grote. And so even hearing from JT Barrett and Press Taylor on that topic, this is a heavy focus right now of trying to get Caleb to accelerate his growth in that area. When you ask these coaches for sort of their assessment of where things stand, it's, it's almost muted praise where it's like, the good thing is we're making progress every day. That's sort of the stock answer right now is the good thing is we're making progress every day, which is for you and I who have been around the building long enough is an indicator of, man, like we had a long way to go, and so this steep climb continues. And so that's why I think that even aside from how the actual plays go on Sunday night against the Bills, which are obviously important, I think there's going to be a focus on, can we get a bunch of plays called in a row where we don't have a delay of game, where we don't have an illegal procedure, where we don't have shifts that are off, where we don't have misalignments. Like it's really rudimentary stuff. I will say this because multiple coaches today stress the fact that the volume that has been thrown on Caleb Williams over the past month will start to reduce when they start to get into more specific game week planning for each opponent. And so hopefully that will alleviate some of the stress and the pressure that's been on the quarterback. But man, these are some really, really basic checklist stuff that the Bears are asking their quarterback to accomplish and to show on a preseason stage on Sunday.
Well, and you talked too about not knowing specifically how Ben Johnson has changed things and what maybe his plan was early and what it is now. That's really important right now that Ben Johnson, like, he's showing it. We've heard other coaches talk about adjusting and really playing to the strengths of the quarterback, downsizing if you have to. And I'm not saying that's what the Bears are going to do here, but the idea that he is not afraid to adjust because it's not out of the realm of possibility that this quarterback, that Caleb Williams or any quarterback that's learning Ben Johnson's offense would not be able to gulp it down the exact same way Jared Goff did right away for the Bears. And maybe that is something to come, but it is really heartening to hear that. And you're right, Dan, about when we ask questions to evaluate players, and we give them a layup where you can just say anything you want. You could praise them. And then they use those buzz phrases like you said, progress every day. Another one is, the effort. You should see this guy, first guy in, last guy out, like all that stuff. Unfortunately, I feel like that's basic. I'm going to go ahead and assume that these guys are working hard. To me, when you hear that, more great guy, great person, the work ethic, I don't want to hear about that stuff as much as I want to hear. I'd rather hear, Ben Johnson talking about Caleb Williams going through his progressions, how he's improving in that, as opposed to the effort that he's putting in and the progress every day.
You know what I hear when I hear those thoughts from the coaching staff here? I hear the little the little beep that you hear on the airplane when they're like, you better buckle your seatbelts because we're headed for some turbulence, right? And then the captain comes out and says, you might want to stay in your seat for the next 10 or 15 minutes because it's going to be a little choppy here. And so that's where we're at with this Bears offense. And over time, they're going to try to progress in the right direction. This is under a really, really bright spotlight. And, we'll see where it goes. Caleb had a much better day today. I was really unimpressed with Monday's practice. It was sloppy, ugly. I don't think it met Ben Johnson's championship standards. In fact, I know it didn't. Today, a little bit crisper with some of the stuff in the passing game. Caleb and Romadunze with some nice connections today. Really nice work from Olamide Zaccheaus as well, who I think, guys, you're going to have to get ready for him to be a big part of this offense, because I think he's won this coaching staff over not only with his ability as a pass catcher, but with all the other things that they're asking him to do within this offense. Total pro. He's got this thing kind of nailed down. And I think that he, Ben Johnson was asked a question about Luther Burden today, and I think he just said that something to the effect of competition is a beautiful thing, because if you're not meeting the standard the way it needs to be met, somebody else may be. And so that, like, you're going to have to fight for roles and opportunities. And I think Zaccheaus has really earned the trust as a veteran right now, as a guy who knows what he's doing, as opposed to a rookie who missed a lot of time, as you remember, in the spring and the early parts of this camp. A lot of catch-up being played by Burden, and I think they feel really secure that they've got a guy like Zaccheaus who can hold it down in the meantime. Yeah, we don't talk about him a lot, but he's been very present. Like, and going back to the OTAs, one of the first guys that I remember the case, we were at the Walter Payton Center, and I'm seeing him for the first time, and I'm like, oh, he kind of, like, you could tell he's got some serious speed. His routes are pretty crisp. He feels like almost like a safety valve, like quarterback friendly type receiver. I mean, ideally you want that to be Cole Kmet or Colston Loveland, maybe even DJ Moore, because of the short passes and the space in which he likes to work. But it sure feels like Olamide Zaccheaus has got that chemistry too going with Caleb, which we want to see him get with DJ Moore and Romadunze. For whatever reason, that has developed nicely. It has. And chemistry comes from knowing where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And I think that's what Zaccheaus brings to the table right now. The other part of this, it's been a treat in the early going, as we've stressed multiple times, to cover Ben Johnson-led team here, because he doesn't make you guess on too many things. And so, we talk in the spring about, hey, how are you going to be evaluating your left tackles? And he says directly to the point, whoever's the best pass protector is the guy that we're going to, everything that happens in the run game is gravy, but we want to identify the best pass protector. Okay. With receivers, he gave us another, double down, triple down, quadruple down today about, hey, don't forget, watch these guys when the ball is not in their hands, right? What are they doing when they're blocking? What are they doing when their route is used as a, something to clear something out for someone else? What are they doing when they're asked to be in motion? And all those things are reminders that this coaching staff wants well-rounded receivers who aren't only interested in making plays with the football in their hands, but doing all of the detailed little things that Ben harps on to make the entire offense work properly. And so when he tells you that, and you start to get an understanding that, yes, Luther Burden is behind with understanding everything. Now Antoine Randall today said, look, like the kid is putting in a ton of work and he's been very responsive to coaching, but that time on the field that you miss keeps you from getting that muscle memory with all the things that you're being asked to learn. And so Zacchaeus has it. Luther Burden doesn't have it yet. And so I guess that's my reminder to myself and to everybody that, like, you can see splash plays being made by Luther Burden out on the practice field and in these preseason games. The coaches know he can make those splash plays. They want to see, can he handle all this other stuff, and so then your lens has to shift in a different direction. And the head coach is just telling you that, right? And so it's really cool to then be like, okay, we can put our own eyes on what they are asking for and see what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, while we're on it, you just made me think about Kyle Monungai and hearing from Eric Bieniemy and basically saying to you guys today, y'all got the block a little bit better, right? He basically said the Monungai's blocking was not good on Sunday night.
Yeah, and look, like they've praised him a lot for the willingness to, I think Declan Doyle said the other day, put his face in the fan, and like just to lean into this stuff in the pass pro game. But he's little, and so as a little guy in this world of big people, you've got to learn technique that works at the NFL level. And I think you heard from some things about Monungai about, like, some of this is just hand placement and being able to, when you're setting up for pass pro, to be able to get your hands in the right place. But that's a lesson you have to learn in real time against big people that play professional football. And you get some of that in the first preseason game. He'll get more of that, I would assume, Sunday night against the Bills. And then you just start to try to grow a football player to your liking. And so, a lot to learn. This was a crazy day out here, Grote, because we had offensive assistants in the morning, defensive assistants in the afternoon, Ben Johnson, Jaquan Brisker, Olamide Zacchaeus. I had to sit down with Roma Dunze today. Like, it was just one of those, you have to go home at night and take in, I was drinking from the fire hose today, to use a camp expression.
Did Kevin Warren and George McCaskey make their way into the media room on this day?
They did not. And
they did not.
There were no special guests today, I don't think, in the media room.
Okay.
But yeah,
you didn't see there wasn't like an R.W. McQuarters walking the sidelines or anything outside, or like
I didn't notice R.W. McQuarters here. No, the only special guest we have here is this Vince Lombardi trophy from 1986.
I prefer to call that trophy XX.
1985 season, but it was won in January of 1986.
That's the last time I understood Roman numerals. Oh, an X and an X. That's a 10 and a 10.
I was in third grade.
Yeah, I guess I would have been, if you were in third grade. Was I eighth grade? Yeah, I was in eighth grade. I was, the voice was just dropping right around that.
That wasn't the only thing that was just dropping.
That's right. You mentioned the offensive line. The battle for left tackle is as interesting as it's ever been. I don't know. I think they probably, obviously they would probably have wanted to have the left tackle name by now. I think that they thought that they might as well, but Braxton Jones, Theo Benedette rotated at first team left tackle. We were just talking before we came on, Dan, you were saying Ozzie Trapillo played some second team right tackle today. So what's going on out there, man?
Oh, so where do we start? Like with the Trapillo at right tackle thing that leads you to believe that, maybe they need to prepare themselves for the idea that he needs to be their swing tackle, right? Like, and if you need to be the swing tackle going into the regular season, you better get some reps over there at the right side. Theo Benedette's entry into the right tackle competition is the most Bears offensive line thing ever in August of 2025.
Wait a minute.
Only the Bears would have a 3-man competition for the left tackle position, possibly won by a fourth guy who wasn't in the competition when it began. And so I don't know where things are going to go with Theo Benedette. Dan Rochard today was very glowing with the growth that the Canadian Eagle has made here during this camp. You remember the Canadian Eagle?
The Canadian Eagle. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I mean, to watch him taking first team reps, about 3.5 weeks before we've got to go to a regular season football game, you're like, wow, like here we are. They obviously have not seen everything that they want to see from Braxton Jones or Ozzie Trapillo. And now we're, and by the way, Karan Amagaji is no longer hurt. He's back on the practice field. He's doing things. So boy, I mean, the fluid nature of this left tackle competition is nuts right now. We talked the other day about how they kind of moved the goalpost and said, we've got time. We've got time on this decision after telling us for 4 months. Ideally, we'd like to have that decision made pretty early so we can get those front five playing together. Boy, that one's up in the air here as we head for a very important week with the Bills coming to town.
Part of me is okay with it, and here's why. It's because, like, in other years when the Bears were rebuilding or when the Bears were not expected to win or there was some sort of excuse for the season, you would have just seen Ozzie Trapillo put in at left tackle because that's the ideal. I think they're actually doing, and it's not going well, like in terms of somebody standing out, but this does say to me that it's an honest competition and that they are truly looking for the best guy to give them success at the beginning of the season, even if you want to narrow it down to game one. And it feels like, to me, all along, of course they've wanted Trapillo to be that guy, but it feels like it's Braxton Jones still, not that he has done enough to separate himself that far. But I think that's the depth chart right now. It's Braxton by an eyelash, right?
I agree with you on that. And when you talk to people about Ozzie, there's two things that come up consistently. Number one, by his own admission, his height is a detriment at times because when you're 6'8", it's sometimes hard to get low and get the leverage that you need against high-level elite athletes that are coming to take your quarterback's head off. So that's something he's got to work on. And then you heard from Dan Rochar this morning, or we did anyway, about him needing to be more actionary than reactionary and just being able to play at a speed with a play speed and an understanding of things where he's dictating the action rather than having to respond to what the guy he's trying to block is doing. And so that's part of it for a rookie second rounder trying to make his way into the NFL world. And there's a lot here, but I mean, if you're starting left tackle, if you're sitting there on Monday Night Football on September 8th and you say Theo Benedict, the Canadian Eagle, you know what I mean? Like people are going to be like, wait, what? Like people's jaws are going to drop if that's where this thing lands.
Yeah, oh boy. Yeah, that's, I mean, and then what is it? And we just sort of blew past Karan Amagaji. And I know you mentioned that he's back out there practicing, but I guess he's out of the competition, or maybe they have to re-ramp him because he was banged up a bit. This is getting busty here all of a sudden.
Well, and I think we felt like from the get-go with Amagaji that he was only going to be a legitimate starting option if the other two failed to meet expectations. And, so you've got to put your best foot forward with what opportunities are there for you. Again, I think Ben has emphasized that this is a big week. There's going to be more joint practice on Friday against the Bills, and then with plenty of action to distribute in the preseason game Sunday, they're going to get a lot of reps to evaluate this thing on. And then you would hope going into that shorter week against the Chiefs next week that they've got some things planned, because you got to start to turn the page to the Vikings sooner rather than later. And you better do so with some security that your offensive line is at least in a form that you want it to be in.
No doubt. Let's get to a few other items here on Take the North. Jaylen Johnson now, according to Ben Johnson, we got a more positive, optimistic report saying that he is right on track for returning in time for week 1. So that's better than, what was it before then? He might even be ready for week 1.
There was a scenario where he could be ready for week 1, and now he seems to be on track and on target for week 1 there. That's coupled up with news today that Kyler Gordon, who's dealing with a hamstring issue, is now week to week. And Ben's words on Kyler Gordon were, hopefully we can get him back before camp is over. And so now you're talking about another starter and a key piece in this defense missing more significant time. This isn't the first time Kyler Gordon's been sidelined in the month of August. It's happened more regularly than people would love for it to happen. And so you need to get him durable and playing at the level he needs to be playing at. I was trying to get into a question today to Ben on Josh Blackwell, who now takes on much greater significance as that slot corner in Gordon's absence, and who's obviously a guy who's made his way on special teams for the Bears over the last several years. But you've got some turnover in the secondary right now, so much so that they signed 4 defensive backs on Tuesday evening just to help them get through the next 2 weeks of training camp so that they can divide up reps, right? Like, and Ben was very clear on Wednesday morning and saying, look, like those guys are going to have to play in the game Sunday, and we're going to have to keep things really basic just so that they can function in a preseason game against the Bills and get us across the finish line of a game that that we are obligated to play by NFL rules.
Yeah, it's like they had to go to the temp service. I used to work for a place called Manpower, where they would just send me to every. You probably heard of that growing up.
I worked for Olston Staffing, who we used to send people out on jobs for a little while. I think I was in college at that point, so we both have a little bit of experience in the temporary.
Oh yeah, I always did like
business.
For some reason, whenever I did like more times than 1 or 2. I was an inventory guy. I would have to go in and like count stuff. Like there was like a workshop with like nails and different sizes, like hammers and nails, and just sitting there counting stuff for like 8 hours. Good stuff.
I got put on a job. This one's kind of fascinating in retrospect. A Y2K project for IBM, where they were trying to get all the inventory of every piece of computer hardware and software they had in the entire. It was for the banking company ABN AMRO, and they were trying to get all of their stuff figured out on whether it was going to crash at midnight on December 31st of 1999. Or I guess that would have been midnight at January 1st, 2000. You
Correct.
Remember the Y2K chaos,
dude? I was
helping to manage it for a huge international banking company as a 20-year-old kid getting a summer job.
I don't want to go too far off the track, but at that time in my life, I was working in Springfield, Illinois. I was a news reporter. So you can imagine that we were just out there covering every single possible
for planes to fall out of the sky.
Oh, absolutely. Going to every local angle. And yes, Y2K. I pretty much felt safe, but it was very, very very scary to think about what could have happened, but those were our Y2K.
Half of our audience has no clue what we're talking about.
Yes, yeah, right. Just look up Y2K. You'll have fun. Dan, one of the things that we like to do here on Take the North every once in a while is to make a rule or make new rules.
Oh, yeah.
And are you prepared, Dan, to share with our Take the North audience a rule that we discussed moments before coming on the air here today?
I've got 2. One of them I'm not going to implement fully until 2026, but moratorium on iron sharpens iron. I can't hear that again in training camp.
You.
I think we got our 75th version of that today from a couple of the assistant coaches. Iron sharpens iron. That's off the table. But I also I'm over people who don't spend every day here at Hallis Hall and don't watch practice, telling those of us who do watch practice how we should evaluate the practices we're watching. Like the people that say, oh, you can't worry about practice. Like, like,
shut up.
It's like, well, wait a second. Like there are people that are interested in hearing what we observe and see and evaluate in practice. And just because it doesn't meet the things that you want to hear with your own ears doesn't mean that like we should stop feeding that information. So I especially for those who aren't out here to be like, oh, it's not a big deal that they're struggling. You're like, well, have you watched the struggles that we've watched? Have you seen some of the things that we've seen? If not, then just trust us on this and stop telling us how we should evaluate practice. That's my role.
I completely, I will implement that. I will put it through the proper Odyssey, Take the North chain here at the Score. And like I always said, like I make it very simple for people. Like we'll tell you the facts. We will tell you what happened, like the good and the bad of Caleb Williams, the good and the bad of the offense, and then you can do with it what you want. Here's the facts. If you've got disclaimers, if you think that Caleb got screwed last year, by all means add that in. He's got a new coach. Everything is new and different. He's learning new plays. You could put that all in there, but we will always tell you exactly what we're seeing. And one thing that we haven't seen is a whole lot of good days from Caleb Williams in the offense.
Correct, right? Yeah. Like, and that's truth telling, right? And that's what this organization is all about now under Ben Johnson. And so it's just truth telling, and we'll see where it leads them. And we talked. I think one of the most fascinating discussions to have that we started to have a few weeks ago is just what's the deadline for Caleb to reach some of these checkpoints? You know what I mean? What is the timeline for this? And like, I'm really curious to know if Ben, who obviously has been part of a Super Bowl contending team for the last 2 years, can recalibrate his brain to be part of a team where 7-10 might be realistic. Like, does the competitive side of him allow himself to take a step back and be like, well, wait a minute, like I got to go back to where I was a few years ago and continue the climb from a whole different place with a quarterback who hasn't done any of this stuff before. Yeah. And so like that's going to be interesting to see where he kind of sets his internal timeline on when some of these checkpoints need to be reached, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. I do think that naturally with a first-year head coach, there is some built-in equity, leeway, I suppose you could say, that comes with it. If you, as you mentioned, a potential 7-10 season is very simple to me. We've talked about this before. It's just got to look like it's going in the right direction, and instead of just tiny little incremental progress, we need to see some jumps. And if there are stumps along the way, there's a 4 or 5 game losing streak that they do end up 7-10 and they're not in the playoffs, that's fine if you're pretty sure you've got a good quarterback.
And this is a hot take. I think there's a much greater chance of the Bears finding out by the end of the 2025 regular season that Caleb isn't the guy than there is of us confirming that he 100% is the guy. Right. And that's a scary thing to wrap your brain around.
It really is.
Because it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. It's unsettling. But I think that's true. And I give people the examples all the time. After year 2, the arrow was pointed up for both Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields. There was a belief in this town that they had shown the requisite playmaking skills and had the success to show that they were on a trajectory to become the long-term answer. Neither one of them made it to a 5th season here. Justin didn't even make it to a 4th season here. And so the idea that this is a long way off from being able to get confirmed evidence that Caleb is the guy that they drafted at number 1 overall, that's an anxious feeling. And it's one I think that our audience is going to have to start to flirt with for a little while.
Yeah, things are, as I use the word today on the score, as it actually pertains to the Cubs and the Bears. Right now, things are scary. You know what I mean? Like, nothing is horrible, really, and nothing is bad. Like, things are actually good with the Bears organizationally. Cubs, they're probably still going to the playoffs, but things are scary right now. I know, man. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm scared about.
Now I have a request for you because I heard you make that acknowledgement on the show this morning, but you not only made that acknowledgement, you did it via Rocky Balboa impersonation. And I think you need to bring that Rocky Balboa impersonation right here to our audience.
All right, I'm afraid of losing what I got. I actually didn't add that. I just remembered the actual line. It is Rocky 3. I believe he was on the beach with Adrian. And she was finally challenging Rocky Balboa, and like really wanting him to, and then he admitted that he was afraid, and I admitted that on the score today.
Give it to me one more time.
All right, I'm afraid of losing what I got.
I love it. It was very good, very good. Very good.
Better on the radio.
and I think it's apt. I think it fits what we're talking about here. I really do think
it is the right word, isn't it? Because it just let's go back to Caleb. Nothing horrible has happened. There's a new brilliant head coach in the building. He's got support staff. He's got more receivers. He's got more weapons. He's probably got a better defense. He might have a better running game, but I'm scared as hell.
And why? Because you've been out here and you've seen things with your own eyes that give you a reason to be scared. That's where I think that with the previous conversation we were talking about, where people think that last year was the definitive floor for Caleb Williams. We have no idea what the floor for Caleb Williams is. This is all new. We have no idea if this is ever going to click with Ben to a level where it makes sense for both of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's
we don't
where
know.
This thing gets crazy because they're putting a ton of volume on his plate and they're trying to figure out what he can handle. And in some ways there's days where it's like, oh boy, he's not able to handle all of that. And so then you've got to figure out how you recalibrate and adjust to that. And that's not an easy process. This might marry up a little bit with something I'm curious to get your take on. Ben's intensity has been sort of put on stage here over the last 6 months. And in many ways, it's received universal commendation, right? Like, this guy has got attention to detail. He's going to hold us to a standard. He's going to do all the things that we asked the last staff to do and that they didn't. My question is how Ben kind of finds the balance of being very demanding in a way that's constructive but not abrasive, right? And that's where it's a little bit of an interesting dance.
Well, I think my simple answer to that is, if the Bears are having a good season, if they're winning, if what he is putting out there is working, his demeanor can be anything he wants it to be. But I would say in this era of players that he just better be careful and just be like we started the podcast with, be willing to adjust if you have to, based on what's happening in real time.
It's going to be interesting. It's a dynamic to keep an eye on. One of the things that I do think that Ben brings to the table is credibility. And that was in the little side session I had with Roma Dunze today. He said, look, like from afar, I watched the 2024 Lions play offense, and I was like, that's a well-oiled machine. They make it look really easy. Mm-hmm. And so you watch that with your own eyes, and you see a team that scored 68 regular season touchdowns on offense last year, and you go, okay, there is a method to this madness, and it is part of the demanding, detailed nature of this head coach that gets those results. And so I can buy into that because I've seen with my own eyes what it produces. And so I think Ben has that more than previous head coaches, in particular Matt Eberflus and Matt Nagy, who you were kind of like, I think I believe you, but I don't have anything on your resume that I'm like really attached to. And I think they obviously have played the Lions a couple times a year for the last couple of years. And so they've seen it up close as well as on their YouTube reels, when they go home at night. There is credibility there for Ben that he has to lean into, but over time, I think you gotta strike the right notes over and over and over again in a way that resonates with the entirety of the group. And I think we're already like, if you were to go home tonight and make a list of guys that you're like 100% bought into Ben Johnson and guys where you're like, definitely not 100% bought into Ben Johnson yet, you'd be able to do that. And we don't need to share that publicly now, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. I've got a small list here right now, but yeah, no, I mean, let's see if he keeps the promise going. So far, so good for Ben Johnson. Dan, anything else that we have not touched on that you would like to share with us in front of your Super Bowl XX trophy at Halas Hall, where there's been a lot of ruckus? I hear the TV people. I know the TV.
It wasn't TV people today. They had a little event out here in various places. And so there's a big group of young people here down in the downstairs PNC Center, and they were leaving and exiting, coming up the stairs, and it was a ruckus. You're right to call it a ruckus. I was kind of given the look, I can't do the we're in a 2-minute drill, we need the crowd to quiet down thing, but I was hoping that people would have a little bit of awareness of the surroundings and maybe give me a little bit of help here. I tried to find like 7 other places to record. It's one of those days where there's so much going on out here, you couldn't find any place to record, and I couldn't even get into the closet that you use.
At least you were not removed. I've been removed from the atrium before by Bear security. Justified.
Well, I was just going to handcuff myself to the trophy and say, try to get me out of here.
No, they have events, and so naturally they don't want a bunch of reporters out in the hallways or in the basement. That's a ruckus, but we are the riffraff to them. I get it. I understand.
We covered a lot of ground, so
we did. Yeah,
the ruckus is over, and we nailed it.
We nailed it. For Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune, for Adam Staszynski, the executive producer of this here show, the Take the North podcast, I'm Mark Grote saying thank you for watching and listening to the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.